What is the big deal with English? I've been talking about the importance of modulating speech to communicate with second language speakers. And that goes for all languages. Certainly, my experience working in my second language, French, almost my entire career speaks to that, certainly to me. But let's face it, English is the big deal. There are only 380 million first language English speakers. It's a pretty small group compared to everyone else. But the L2 speakers are 1.1 billion. And I'm taking these numbers from Ethnologue, which is a very respected publication that has been monitoring language use since 1951. I think their number is small. I think it's more like 1.5 billion. I've seen that number a lot, but there are a lot of variations, and I'm taking their numbers because it's the entirety that counts, the agglomeration, not each individual number. So that gives you a total, of 1.4 billion people who right now can communicate in English, can speak English well enough to enter the job market. Now, the estimated learners for English, nobody can really calculate what that is, especially with the internet now, and people can learn in any way. But that 1.5 billion is, I think, a little funny. Of the 1.1 billion people who can already speak English as a second language, a lot of them are still learning. They are perfecting their English. They're taking courses. Because they take courses, they show up in the reports issued by the schools, or they show up in the reports of people who are using a particular speech app. So the number that I like, there are not 2.9 billion people either speaking or learning English. The number I use is 2.2. You'll hear 2, you'll hear 2.1, but I think it's 2.2. If you look just at Mandarin, Mandarin is almost 1 billion people on its own. They're in China. They're in China, or they're part of the Chinese diaspora. They are Chinese people. There are only 200 million L2 because Chinese is a very difficult language. There are so many people in the world who speak English as a second language or are learning, and the learning and second language numbers are increasing at multiples of the factor of any other language. This is why English is important. We have a huge bank of people who can speak our language as their second language that we can communicate with. Not only that, when German people want to speak to Spanish speakers from Argentina, chances are they're going to end up speaking English because they both speak English second language. So 380 million English speakers makes us the few, the proud, and we have a responsibility because we have it easy. Everyone is learning our language. There is a certain privilege now associated with being a native English speaker because everyone is trying to communicate in our language. And with that privilege comes responsibility for us to be responsible in helping people acclimatize to working in English. They're still going to speak their native language at home, with their families, in their own countries, No country is abandoning its language to take up English. But in international relations, in international cooperation, the people who are working to solve the problems of the world, pollution, poverty, climate change, they're working in their own countries, in their own language. But when they get together to coordinate, chances are they're working in English. And it's our job to nurture them by speaking in a way that they can understand. Slow it down, enunciate. That's our job.